I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia.
They're doing it as we sit here.
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it.
I hope this is not the new normal, but I fear it is.
This just came out. WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks.
How do you react to that?
It's probably problematic is an understatement.
It's a whole big fat hoax. It's just a hoax.
No, it's not a hoax.
It's a total witch hunt.
It is not a witch hunt.
There was no obstruction, and if you read the report, you'll see that.
The report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It was a complete and total exoneration.
Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
All right, it was not an exoneration. And again, I want to just read this again because the president lied, like he always lies, about this Russian investigation and said it was a hoax. And yesterday, his campaign manager was talking about the people Joe Biden had around him. Trump's foreign policy advisor lied about Russia to investigators in Congress. His national security advisor lied. Campaign chairman lied. Deputy campaign chairman lied. Personal lawyer lied. Political consultant lied. They were all convicted of lying to federal investigators about Russia or other Russian activities. And, of course, the Attorney General and Jared Kushner also either lied or misstated their contacts with Russians before they got into the White House. With us now, let's bring in the staff writer at The New Yorker and CNN's longtime legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin. He's out with a definitive account of the Mueller investigation and the impeachment of the president, a new book entitled True Crimes and Misdemeanors, the investigation of Donald Trump. The timing of this is fascinating because I will tell you, I have been wanting to write for months a column in my Washington Post column about this topic, because I have become so enraged about how op-ed writers at the Washington Post and at other pro-Trump sites, not Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and other pro-Trump sites continue to talk about a, quote, Russian hoax, all because the Steele dossier turned out to be untrue. By the way, we attacked the Steele dossier here on Morning Joe from the day it came out. But they're hoping everybody will just look at the Steele dossier and ignore the mountains of evidence that show how huge, how systematic this connection between the Russians and Donald Trump's campaign.
I mean, the scale of it is really extraordinary. And you know, I have a lot to criticize about the Mueller investigation. But one thing they succeeded in enormously was identifying the specific acts, whether it was the Internet Research Agency in St. Petersburg, run by Putin's close friend, or more importantly, the hacking done by the Russian military intelligence operatives that, you know, had an enormous impact on the election. And, you know, one of the stories I tell in the book is how on a single day, a young prosecutor in Mueller's office named Rush Atkinson, he was looking at the hacking, the day-by-day hacking in Russia, and he sees one day when it spikes. Like, why do they do more hacking this day? And he starts Googling what happened that day. And it was the day that Donald Trump said, Russia, if you're listening, go get Hillary Clinton's emails. So the interaction, the call and response between Russia and Donald Trump was really extraordinary, and it had an impact on the 2016 election, there's no doubt.
Well, again, within hours of Donald Trump holding that press conference saying go after Hillary Clinton's 30,000 missing emails, within hours, the Mueller report said it was the first time the Russians tried to start hacking Clinton-related accounts. We also can look at the fact, and this isn't an original thought by me, but SV Date at the Huffington Post continues to ask, when someone on the Trump campaign team, someone in the Trump White House, someone who blindly supports Donald Trump and his connections with Russia will just admit and explain why Donald Trump and his team used information stolen from the Russians every single day the last month of the 2016 campaign.
And you know, they did it openly, and as you just saw in that montage, you know, I love WikiLeaks. The candidate Trump said that over and over again. And you know, one of the things about the Mueller investigation that was perhaps a missed opportunity was that they never went back and looked at the historical relationship between Russia and Trump, other than the 2015 letter of intent to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. What is it about Vladimir Putin that that Donald Trump to this day refuses to criticize? Mueller didn't do that. He didn't subpoena Donald Trump. He didn't spell out his crimes in his Mueller in the final report. The irony here is that for all that the president and his allies criticized Mueller for an excess of zeal, I think the real story of the Mueller investigation is the absence of a complete investigation, especially one that included real questioning of Donald Trump.
And again, he pulled back at several key moments, again, on the questioning of Donald Trump, on several conclusions that he just refused. The door was wide open, and he refused to step through it on several occasions. Elise Jordan, I remember when, Jeffrey talks about Donald Trump, for some reason, will not cross Vladimir Putin. I remember reading the news about the bounties that Vladimir Putin was putting on the heads of U.S. troops, and turning to Mika as I was reading the breaking news saying, oh, my God, what a terrible position this is going to put Donald Trump in, because he will not criticize Vladimir Putin for this. I wonder how he's going to avoid it. And here we are, over a month later, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, has still refused to criticize a former KGB agent who has put bounties on the heads of young American troops in Afghanistan. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.